RSUs are actually something that we deal with fairly often in my practice. So we're up in the Portland, Oregon area. And up here, we have companies like Nike, Intel, along with a lot of other tech companies. So those are the type of companies that we see a lot of RSUs given to employees as compensation. Lots of clients have RSUs part of their compensation package. So here's how we actually handle those from a practical perspective. So first things first, anytime you're dealing with money, I don't care if it's RSUs, bonds, stocks, whatever, making sure that you establish the facts. So the facts in an RSU situation are going to be established, first of all, with the RSU grant letter. That grant letter is going to tell us how many shares and when they're going to vest. And so with that, I'm going to make a note on my calendar to reach out to my client on the date that those shares are supposed to vest to remind them that, hey, this is happening. We need to get on top of this. Now, it's great that we're expecting something to happen at a certain time, but part of establishing the facts is making sure that what was supposed to happen actually happens. So I asked them to send me a statement of that transaction, a transaction confirmation, just to make sure that what happened matches what was supposed to happen. What that's also going to tell me is how many of those shares that vested were withheld for tax purposes. So I have an idea of how much was applied to that tax bill, and I'll be alerted if that isn't enough, if we're going to need to make additional plans to pay that tax bill. So now I've established the facts. How many shares were received, at what price, and what date. Also, how much was taken out for taxes. Before I can make a recommendation, though, I need to also establish what my client's goals are. So I usually have a conversation with them like, hey, you now have this money. What are you looking to accomplish with it? Do you have anything that you'd like to apply that to? And common answers I'll get to that is, oh, I'd love to take a trip to Japan or China or overseas, Europe, whatever. Maybe they also want to buy a house or they also want to do a wedding or something like that. So whatever that goal is, I'm going to understand that goal and I'm going to figure out the time horizon for when they want to accomplish that. More often than not, they are telling me something that's going to happen within the next 3 to 5 years, if not sooner. Because of that, ding, 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 there's a red flag going off in my head. There is a misalignment there. They're telling me a goal that's going to come due in 3 to 5 years, yet they're holding a stock. A stock is a tool for long-term capital growth. On top of that, more often than not, the stock that they receive from a tech company or from a company like Nike or Intel is historically more risky than other stocks. So we have an issue now where the tool that we're using, a tool for long-term growth, doesn't match up with the goal that we actually want to accomplish, which might be more in the short-term area. On top of that, I need to make sure that the amount of taxes that we're taking out is going to line up with the tax bill that's actually going to be due. So assuming the client wants to make a change along that directive, we're going to have them transfer the shares directly to us. What we do is something called a in-kind transfer. So we don't actually sell the stock as part of that transfer. The stock just gets sent over in kind. What that does is make sure no tax consequences happen. If you don't sell the stock, you don't trigger any sort of gain. Once the stock transfers over to me, I, again, verify that all the information that I'm seeing matches with the information that I received in terms of the confirmations and whatnot. Then I'm going to work with the client to develop an investment recommendation that fits their time horizon, that fits the amount of risk that they're comfortable with, so that we can be aligned in terms of the tools that we're using and the goal that we're trying to accomplish. Assuming that we're going to move forward with that, we are actually going to have to sell that stock. But what's important is that when I sell that stock, and this is why I want to make sure I know what the price it was when it vested, because if the stock vests at $100 and we sold it at $102, that means that there's going to be a capital gain. And because they haven't held that for a year, there's going to be short-term capital gain tax consequences. I want to make sure the client's comfortable with that. And if we are going to incur that tax liability, I want to make sure that I put money to the side for that client so they can pay their tax bill come April. Their tax bill for the capital gain that might be there, but also for whatever income tax that they have on the original value of the vest, because very often not enough taxes are going to be withheld from that transaction. Assuming all those boxes are checked, what I'm going to do is take that amount that we're going to owe for taxes and put it into a very safe instrument with the client's consent to making sure that that money that we're going to need to use in the next year or so to pay that tax bill is available to us. It's not taking too much risk. And the rest of that, I'm going to make sure that it's in that portfolio that I discussed and confirmed with the client that's aligned with their goals. And that's how this all works. And I like to tell it this way because, yes, there's additional steps that come out when you are dealing with an RSU. There's always additional steps depending upon what specific instrument that you're doing. But the bottom line is always the same. Investment decisions are simple. It's making sure that we identify what the goal is and that we're using the right tool that matches up with that goal. And I don't care if this is a 401k, an RSU, or just personal investing, that same principle is always going to apply.